What's good, everyone? My name is Sampamoga, and I'm here to react to Can sex workers and virgins see eye to eye? I'm pretty sure they can. Ain't no way.
I remember when I had my very first escort session, I had this background feeling that I was gonna feel like gross. And then I remember I went through the session and I left and I was walking down the street with like a couple $1,000s in my pockets. And I was like, who exploited who here?
Oh, that's a nice intro.
Step forward if you agree. I judge the other side.
Okay.
It's hard for me to reconcile, unfortunately, sex work as noble or something that it's necessary for society.
Totally understand. But also, one of the oldest professions is sex work. One of the things that almost every human does in the world is sex. So the idea that we actually do this for money isn't too far out of the ordinary, you know? My dad was a pastor. So it's understand, I didn't grow up in an idea where sex work was okay. But I did grow up in an idea where it's I want to learn, I want to experiment. And one of the things I wanted to always learn about was what my body does. So what made you decide, what put you in a place where you decided, is it religious? Or
Yeah, so it's definitely a Jesus thing. Jesus is my
thing.
Lord and Savior, and so I totally believe that that part of me is something to be shared intimately with the person I'm choosing to spend my life with.
Can I ask the disagreeers to step forward?
I don't judge you. I just don't understand why you would give people access to your body in that manner, which opens you up to so many more risks with STDs, pregnancies, all that stuff. I could not do that. That is not me.
Okay, here's a good example for that. It's
Okay.
My other job is doing stunts. I light myself on fire. Is there a risk to that?
Yes.
But it is an educated risk because I know exactly what I'm doing and I know how long to burn and I know what's going on.
Yeah.
Same thing with sex work. These are all educated risks that we take.
That is our job. Our body is what we use for our job, so we take care of it. We get tested, we take care of our health. You know, we are very, very adamant about that.
But I just cannot get on board with our bodies being a product all the time.
But isn't that how every job is? When I was working in retail, my body was a product. I'm lifting heavy things. I'm working in, weird, nasty work conditions. I'm getting injured. Every job I've had has required physical labor of my time and body, and I'm required to be there.
We all sell our body, just depends on what part.
I mean, but sexual selling is very different from what I do, which is working as a nurse in a hospital.
But you're selling your time, your physical ability, your knowledge, and your emotion, because that job is very draining on your mental health. We're doing the same thing, except we're just showing nudity and pleasure.
Okay. Yeah, that's a fair point.
I'm Nathan Bronson. I am 32. I am a sex worker, and almost 100% of that is doing porn. When I was younger, I had girls tell me I was very terrible in bed and I had a small penis. I wanted a challenge. I always like doing things that not a lot of people can do. I want to be able to prove that.
Yeah, you proved that you can do it, definitely, for becoming a porn star. It's oh, bet. You think I'm bad? I'm about to show you, and I'm about to record it. You're gonna see me shine.
I can do it. So that's why I got it.
Sex work can make the world a better place.
Yes, I think so.
I'm a prostitute and I've had so many clients. I had one guy whose wife had died and he'd only been with her his whole life. And she had just died a year ago and he was I don't know how to date again. He didn't want to get into the emotional part where he was interwoven with the new person. And so as baby steps, he came and saw me as an escort. Or there was another guy who was dying of cancer. And he was I'm not in a position where I can get laid on my own. And I don't want to die without experiencing intimacy with another person. And I got to be that for him. And just last year, I looked him up and I found his obituary. Oh. Those encounters are what make the job valuable to me. Because this is not just a casual physical experience, right? you're touching somebody's soul, and I am so thankful to have been allowed the opportunity to help women that I've helped like that.
Sometimes I get the feeling
interesting.
that we save lives. Someone having a bad day, a man might want to be a little violent, but instead, you know, he goes to the strip club, or he watches a little porn, or he, you know, spends time with a provider, and that brings him down and it levels him out, and he gets that intimacy that he's missing.
I have a suspicion that we save marriages. Like, I saw so many husbands who were like, my wife hasn't touched me in 6, 10, 15, 20 years, and like, I need sexual outlet. And like the fact that they can get it with an escort like preserves the marriage. Otherwise they would leave the wife and the house and the kids and everything would
I kind of disagree on that one. It's when you marry someone, you are dedicating a piece of you to them, and it just, for me personally, it feels wrong on that side. It's like, yo, like, I married you because I saw something in you that I would love to preserve as much as I can. It's for me to go out and get a prostitute is disrespectful to what I stand for and my character, and to my other half.
Explode. It's like a controlled release.
I got thoughts.
Okay, so I did want to address the idea that you said that you having sex with a husband saved the marriage. I don't believe that's even possible. How can adultery save a marriage?
Like, my perception is that this is like an inadequate Band-Aid to cover a wound that doesn't have another way to heal. And so I'm not saying it's great. I'm saying, yeah, you're correct in your criticism. I would not like to be in a marriage where this was happening without my knowledge. But like, I do suspect that the alternative is the destruction of the marriage.
I want to share something. So I looked at porn when I was in 8th grade, and just kind of hearing, it's crazy, I'm getting like a frustration because I'm like, oh man, because it really put me down a bad spiral. And I just started thinking about myself. I started thinking about women really inappropriately. It's because like porn puts this idea in our mind and kind of scares us. I think it scares guys away from actually talking to women, actually.
Yeah, I also want to like validate the fact that pornography like can cause these effects in people. Like, some people watch porn and they have like a really negative reaction, or like it causes you to feel like this objectification of women that you don't want to experience. And I think it's like really important to like acknowledge that and be like, yeah, maybe some people just shouldn't watch porn. Like, maybe it's bad for them.
I was watching an interview the other day with Angela White, another porn star, and she said this thing that just fucking blew my mind, where she was like, you know, we don't watch Fast and the Furious to learn how to drive. We don't watch porn to learn how to have sex and intimacy. Porn is entertainment.
That's so hard though, because so many people watch it. If that's the avenue they go towards, that's what they're gonna learn from.
That's true. They won't know how to separate porn from real life.
And then they're
But
going
again,
down a bad
now
path.
you're still splitting that path of like, because we're having sex on camera, it is entertainment.
What would be your solution to be like, if you do have those unsuspecting audiences, like, is there an advisory? Is there something that says?
No, because it doesn't matter what you do, people are going to find it. Now, what I think, better education, better parents, better teaching, because when it really comes down to it, me doing this job and being chastised for doing something that as an adult that I want to do and I want to strive to do better is a completely different thing.
I'm Rudy, I'm a virgin, and I believe sex is a beautiful thing that God made for two people. I view the sex industry as something very taboo and full of people who may or may not have had a different choice or thought of a different option to provide themselves a better life.
God cares about our sex lives.
Yeah. I could tell that.
I believe that God created sex. Like, we are all sexual beings. I mean, unless you're asexual, I guess. But sharing that with one person for the rest of my life, like, that is so appealing to me, because then I feel like I can like give my fullest self to them, and I would hope that they want to do the same with me.
I feel like God is involved. And that's why people thought I was crazy when I said, yeah, I want to be actually praying on my first time. People thought I was crazy. But there's emotion, there's so much more than just action.
That was
so good.
Wild one in a way.
I used to be very Christian. I was homeschooled.
Girl, same.
Homeschooled, yeah. Yes. My dad's a professional evangelical debater who has a radio
like
show
an
and writes
apologist?
books. Yes,
Oh,
he's a
God.
Christian apologist. Yeah, I was raised, no kissing, don't hold hands. I was like, till marriage, like absolutely. But there was a sense of like this sexual act is really elevated. Like a lot of it from my frame is that we're like sort of participating in a social ritual where we all like give this act like a huge amount of power, which is like not my deal, but I really resonate with like the strength that can hold.
So I also grew up Catholic and, grew up in my Catholic shame bubble. I would masturbate and then cry myself to sleep and be like, God hates me and I'm going to hell. I don't know, man. I just kind of opened my eyes to the world and was like, you know what? People are out here raping, they're out here murdering, they're out here doing some crazy ass shit, and this world is fucking awful. I don't think God is down, looking down on the world and seeing all that and going, God damn it, Avery's sucking a dick again, like another check, like she's gone, I'm like, no.
Are you at all worried that by
That's a fair point, Avery.
creating porn and all that stuff is feeding into a very real addiction that a lot of men suffer with?
So the difference there is with like the mainstream porn that I do, yeah, it can be hella skeezy. They give you skeezy, storylines and stepmom this and step this, and it gets real skeezy, But then when you take it to the other side of the porn, I can put out the product that I want to. I can help educate people. I can put out ethical porn because I'm making it. My name is Avery. I am 27 years old and I am a sex worker. It's weird because I grew up super, super religious and, used to give chastity talks at church and chastise my friends for being sexual, but I actually find that I'm not as bitter towards my religion anymore since I started this work because somehow it's kind of reconnecting me to it in a way. Just seeing that and hearing from people that I'm putting good out into the world and I'm making the world a better place and I'm making people feel joy and happiness.
I've had trouble in romantic relationships.
Yes. Each of them, actually.
My fiance does not do sex work, she's only slept with, I think, 13 people, right? Which to me, that's...
He's like, that's so little. For me, that's a lot.
I mean, before I got into the industry, I was over 100 something, so it's a crazy number to me. It's always a very strange thing trying to keep this relationship going in that sense of like what I do, because even it's just there's egos, and she has to see me with younger women all the time, and it sometimes hurts her, but it's like just a lot of communication.
For me, I am currently in a relationship, and the guy I'm dating, he is actually not a Christian. So I had to have that conversation with him beforehand, like that because of my religious beliefs, I'm not going to have sex until marriage. He's not only honored it, but he supported it. But it does make it difficult because it's like I want to make him happy, he wants to make me happy, and that struggle of like, I guess, fighting against our flesh is going to be a little harder. I don't want anyone to see my naked body until they're my husband.
Oh, he hasn't even seen you naked?
No.
Oh, really? Wow. Sorry, being naked is just such I just walk around naked. It doesn't. How long have you guys been dating?
It's been a few months.
Like 3, 4?
Yeah, around that.
Good for you, girl. Keep that on lock.
A lot of people think that we are anti-sex or not sex positive. I don't think that's true at all. I know that I'm a very sexual person. I cannot wait to explore that sexual side of myself with my husband, but that is something that I want to restrict to just one person, and that's how I want to explore that sexual side of me.
I'm just happy to be here.
I don't have a romantic issue with my virginity because they kind of, they admire kind of what I do or my self-control, stuff like that.
Yeah,
so.
Restraint is hot.
Huh?
Restraint is
hot.
Yes, it is.
Question, have you had women who definitely not virgins, maybe not even Christian, come after you because they know you're a virgin, they're trying to steal that card?
Yeah.
And how hard do they push?
pretty hard.
Oh, snap.
I've never been in a circumstance where I had somebody I wanted to date who did not want to date me because of my job, ever.
Really?
Ever. Because the kind of filters I have in place, like by the time we get to the point where I want to date them, like if they've passed all the other criteria that I have, by that point, all of them are just totally fine with sex work. I don't like people who are possessive at all. I'm very polyamorous. In the normal world is that people don't date each other because of sex work, but that's just not the reality I live in.
See, that's my reality. I have a hard time with romantic relationships because, well, I'm a sex worker, and not only am I a sex worker, but outside of work, I self-identify as a whore. Like, I just like to have sex, and I like to experience as many people as possible. And when I do find someone that I'm interested in for romantic relationships, that's the package deal. You know, I tell them, like, look, I want to be with you, and I want to be in a relationship with you, and I care about you a lot, but I also need to be a slut and have sex with people who aren't you sometimes. I've tried dating, like, other porn performers, and, you know, even that gets murky because even with our jobs, jealousy is still a thing. So, you know, I'll be dating a porn star who knows that I'm a porn star, and then they hit me with the, hey, babe, I think, like, maybe you should just start doing, like, content with girls. Yeah, just do girl, and, like, maybe threesomes with me and other girls, and, like, that's it, and change your branding. And I'm like, so you started this romantic relationship with me knowing exactly what the is down, like, who I am, what I do, what I'm about, and you thought that, oh, let me just, like, wait a few months and then I can, like, change. You're like, okay, great.
I enjoy masturbation.
Oh, nice. Good for you.
Hey, girl.
Do you feel guilty?
I think in the beginning, because I didn't know what I was doing and like what I felt about it, the problem is like the Bible doesn't say anything about masturbation. So you're always like, this is the world of gray, and then...
But religion says something about masturbation, so, like, does your religion say anything about masturbation? Is nothing?
It's more about like generalized sexual immorality. So I didn't feel like masturbation was immoral of me. Like I felt like, oh, this is just me getting to know my body and what I like, and then hopefully pass it along to a great guy.
Yeah, I remember when I was Christian and I was trying to figure out if I should masturbate. I would like consult the Bible quite a lot. I would like Google, you know, like, is it okay to masturbate for women? And there was no resources.
Gotta go to Google. Google's your friend.
For women at all. It was like men have to control their lusts. And I felt like a crazy pervert because I'm like, oh, I have all these urges that women apparently don't have. I ended up deciding that, okay, lust is a sin, but the masturbation itself isn't. So that if I engaged in the physical act without like having any sort of mental process going on, then that would be okay by God.
I'm surprised that you...
Oh, I got answers. I got answers. One of the things is because I have to save my load to use at work, which is a little graphic, but that's really what it is. So one of the things I have to do, because I'm doing 2 scenes a day, so I can't jerk off. I can barely have sex with my fiance most of the time because I'm doing the job. I'd much rather take that time, go give pleasure to someone else and actually see that look on someone's face that I gave them an experience.
I would totally disagree with the idea that masturbation isn't sin. I feel like there's something that happens. I don't know, like it's just so hard to explain.
I'm curious.
So
I want to ask, like, what is it like to you about touching your own body, that, and you know, making yourself feel that type of pleasure? What makes that a sin?
But it's like with me, I just see that God is so high and mighty that, like, the reason why maybe I keep on messing up, because there's moments of I'm sexting, I'm, you know, doing things, and you're like, what? How would you do that? But the thing is, it's like, yeah, I mean, and the thing is understanding that, like, I'm not.
I genuinely like how the sex workers are so like chill, you know, like they're so like laid back and like understanding, you know. I love it.
It's
cool
but
them.
also understanding that, like, I want to be more Christ-like. Yeah, progress in my
faith. Do you
faith.
masturbate?
Yes, I have, yes.
Do you do it regularly?
There's moments where it's about probably once a month.
Oh.
What do you guys do when you feel those impure thoughts and you think about it and you want to masturbate because that's your direct correlation to what you're doing?
I call a friend and kind of like, because the thing is,
You got
like,
a friend like that? That's
Do you
awesome.
tell your friends why you're calling them? Or do you just call for distraction?
I call, well, it's calling, kind of be like, hey, this is happening right now. I need some prayer because this could get bad. This could be bad because it's like it's really unhealthy. It's very unhealthy of me.
And if you're in a good church community, you have prayer warriors, and that helps immensely, no matter what you may be struggling with.
Okay.
Being a virgin has shaped me in a way of separating myself from the rest of the pack. So I stopped watching porn based off of a flick that I watched. That just made me just stop completely. I like intimacy, and I've realized that porn doesn't give me the intimacy that, I'm searching for.
That's dope.
The sex industry is sexist.
The sex divide is way different in our industry. Women get paid a lot more.
It's actually, the sex industry is I think it's one of like 2 industries in the world where women make more than men.
Yeah.
Everyone's objectified, kind of, because the men y'all are reduced to your penises.
Oh, yeah,
No one
meat
even
bag.
really knows who the men are, but I know so many people who recognize penises. We have to cater to these fantasies for fans, and there are sadly a lot of, it's a broad reflection of how the world is. And out in the broad world, there's a lot of men who want to see women get beat and had sex with brutally and just brutally taken, and that's what they
That's
want.
where I'm thinking the sex industry is sexist, because women in general in the different aspects of the sex industry, I feel like are viewed as less than.
They are. And for me, the one turnaround of it though is where we take our power back. We enjoy, filling out those fantasies and those role plays to take power over it. The other night I was having sex with a man, and he's like having sex with me, and he puts his foot on my face and is like stepping on me while he's having sex with me. And you see your face. My face, I was in heaven. I was there trying to lick his feet, and I was just like, this is hot to me because I get to explore this in a safe manner that is controlled by me.
She's so comfortable saying that. That's the wild part to me. It's like, good for you. That's like, you feel confident within yourself.
Of course porn is designed for men. It's not because we don't like women. It's because men are visually stimulated and way more likely to spend money on porn. This doesn't feel like an issue to me. This feels just like the natural way that we are. I remember when I had my very first escort session where I had sex with my first man for money. Going into it, I was super nervous because I had this background feeling that I was gonna feel gross or violated or exploited in some way, a little bit of a fear. And then I remember I went through the session and I left, and I was walking down the street with a couple $1,000s in my pocket because I charged very high rates. And I was like, who exploited who here? I feel incredible. And I remember feeling
Respect.
I remember feeling angry at society. I was like, why did they tell me this would feel bad? I feel so good. And it's at that point, it's I don't know, when we talk about sexism in the industry, you could very easily argue it goes the opposite way. I grew up in a very conservative culture that expected me to become a housewife, but it turned out to be that I was a sex worker instead. I got to escape that sort of life where I was working minimum wage jobs with not a lot of prospects. My family is not supportive of my professional choices. I'm definitely performing an immoral action in their eyes. I am degrading myself and my sexuality in their eyes. I associate it very strongly with freedom, being able to have access to a lot of different choices.
She reminds me of a hippie in a way. The way she dressed for this and the way she's expressing herself. Reminds me of a hippie.
To make a lot of money that I never would have had the opportunity to have before.
All sex work should be legalized in America.
Yes.
From all the statistics I know of, let's say Australia, and this is from just the knowledge I've learned from that, apparently sex work has actually decriminalized a lot of places. So if you legalize all sex work, you kind of take away that human want in making it so it's just available if you want it. And also, if you make it available just like prostitution, making that available, you have to make people go through screening. You have to make people get tested. So everyone's going to, STDs might even go down.
There's a difference between decriminalizing sex work and legalizing it. Legalizing it means obviously the government is going to be into it. They're going to be able to set up health regulations, which can definitely help sex workers. Decriminalizing it just means that You as a sex worker cannot be arrested for what you do. I personally don't believe that legalizing it is beneficial, because even in those countries where it is legalized, it correlates to higher rates of sex trafficking. I know I'm not supposed. Yes, yes. And I would have thought that it wouldn't have been that way, because otherwise.
I did not know that countries with legalized prostitution are associated with higher human trafficking inflows than countries.
I would have agreed with you. I would have said, yes, it should be legalized, because then we can have all these regulations in place to make it safer for sex workers.
But see, if you had.
That's crazy. I did not know that. You learn something new every day.
A governmental body going through, just like if you went to a restaurant, there's an A on the door saying like food handlers, right? Then it would be, this is a building that is regulated. We have people coming through to make sure everyone coming through gets tested this many times, and you coming in, you have to be tested the day before to actually get checked in.
I guess that assumption is based on if everyone who is in sex work would go the legal route, because not everyone would. When there's government involvement, what does that mean? Taxes. Not everyone wants to have taxes. That's why in New Zealand it's decriminalized, but there are no regulations to keep anyone in that whole situation safe.
I was just on the disagree side because I don't think it should be legalized. I think it should be decriminalized. I don't want the government anywhere near sex work. I don't want the government controlling it, taxing it, making it to where they legalize it, but they're still gonna put loopholes around that puts us in even more danger. I also think sex work should be decriminalized, because as long as it's criminalized, we're at the mercy of the cops, and the cops are the biggest threat to female sex workers specifically. Almost every female sex worker I know who's had an encounter with the cops has been raped by the cops.
Okay, so learn something new every day. Yeah, shouldn't legalize it. Decriminalizing it is actually the better option. Yes.
Sex is the ultimate form of intimacy.
Whenever I do have sex that first time, I just don't want anyone else other than my husband to ever see me in that vulnerable state. It's too precious to me, and how can you get more, at least physically intimate than that? You can get more emotionally intimate, I'm sure, but...
Yeah, that intimacy with someone else. And it's crazy because we're waiting for that, you know? We're waiting for that and wondering what that's gonna be like.
As a nurse, I've seen, 94-year-olds in the hospital, and just like the intimate relationship that they've had with their spouse still carries forward. Like, people who are quadriplegic, people who no longer can speak, who are more nonverbal, just seeing the dedication day after day, like their visitors, their family members coming in. It's just really nice to see that you can have a circle of different types of intimacy with companionship and the trusting relationship and the physical part of it.
Intimacy is moments in time, moments between people. I've had intimate moments, like I had an intimate moment with you today. Now, was it the most intimate thing I've ever done? No. So I think those moments where you're there with someone willing to die for that person is way more intimate than anything we can find sexually, because
I definitely agree. That is so true.
Sex is something that's gonna happen when you guys start having sex and start being in there with your partner. It's like you want that to last forever. You want that moment, but it's not the thing you would die for. God, you would die for God. That's an intimate thing. That sexual moment is not. You would die for her for other reasons, not for sex.
That was good.
Bye.
Yo, this was an awesome video by Jubilee. Love it. Love the perspective of the sex workers and the virgins. Great stuff. Like,